Civil War, causes, the war itself, and the results. We're speaking of the North and South of the United States. In terms of causation, we go back to something fundamental, going back to colonial times. And that would be the development of slavery in the South, and not so much in the North. That slavery didn't develop in the North is not very much a moral issue in terms of Northern moral superiority, but more a matter of climate, topography, lay of the land. The hilly, rocky soil of New England was not conducive to slave labor, was not conducive to the plantation. Rather, you would have the family farm. You might have one hired worker, you might have a slave. There certainly were slaves in the North, but nothing like what would develop in the South. And so with that warm, all year-round crop possibility in the South, slavery develops. In the colonial era, there was major debate about slavery, whether it should continue or not. A common description of it was a necessary evil. Note the negative word evil, but also note the word necessary. In the North, in certain states, like New Jersey, for example, slavery would exist until not long before the Civil War. And if slavery did not catch hold in the North, certainly the racism toward blacks did to a significant degree. In terms of the Declaration of Independence, efforts to end slavery with that remarkable document failed. The Constitution of the United States, specifically in the infamous 3/5 clause, stipulates for slavery, and so it was well grounded in early American history. And yet there was this debate going on in the South of whether it should continue or not. A major change with regard to slavery in the South was the invention of the cotton gin by Connecticut Yankee Eli Whitney. The cotton gin changes the face of slavery. That invention in the early 1790s made cotton king, as it was known, of the crops in the South. Before the invention of the cotton gin, cotton was not a major crop in the South. Tobacco, rice, indigo were. The problem with cotton was the laborious effort needed to separate the seed from the cotton fiber. The cotton gin, with its teeth-like mechanism, made that a much simpler process. And it gave slavery a whole new lease on life for the South. It became the major money crop for the Southern slaveholder. What this did, among other things, was to change the nature of debate over slavery in the South. Called a necessary evil before the invention of the cotton gin, after that invention, debate over slavery became much harder to fulfill. That is to say, those opposed to slavery found it much more difficult, much more dangerous to argue against that institution in the South. And the justification for slavery, they dropped the defensive necessary evil argument and now start calling it a positive good. Good for us slaveholders, good for the slaves. And that becomes the dominant theme in its justification for slavery in the South. But sectionalism, North and South against each other, is slow to develop in articulate political forms. Southern political leaders still saw themselves in nationalistic terms. But eventually, the strain between North and South will increase over certain issues that will arise in the 19th century. For example, the tariff, the tax on imports coming into the United States. Tariffs can be a way to raise money.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?